Hi, everybody. It's Mrs. K from the Massachusetts Public Library. And today I want to talk about 3 chapter books that deal with unusual families. I know we all think our families are pretty special and unusual, but I found 3 that are even your families are different than. The first story we're going to start with is called Savvy. It's a 2009 Newbery Honor book, and it's about the Beaumont family. And they have a bunch of kids, and well, something strange happens to them when they turn 13. So I made a book trailer that I'd like to share with you. If you'd give me 1 minute, and we will share that. And let's get this thing started. So on the day they turn 13, the Beaumont children get their savvy. Rocket can create electricity. Fish can cause hurricanes. Today is Mibs's birthday. And savvy birthdays always tend to cause a rumpus. Join her on an extraordinary adventure as Mibs discovers her savvy and finds her own voice. Because you never can tell when a bad thing might make a good thing happen. So that's the little book trailer that I made. And so the day before her 13th birthday, Mibs's father is in a terrible car accident. And Mibs wishes that her savvy will save his life. And savvies are very complicated in that not only do they just suddenly appear and you don't know what it's going to be till you get it, you have to figure out how to harness it, how to make it work for you. And her brother's the one that can create electricity. When he gets upset, things just start to, power goes out and things like that. And then they have the one who creates hurricanes, which can cause problems when it causes them to move to a new town. And so they have to harness them. And so there's a lot going on. So she is so sure that her savvy is going to save her father's life. She doesn't know what it is, but she's so sure that she hijacks or sneaks onto a bus of a Bible salesman. And she's pretty sure it's going to go back to town to the hospital, but it doesn't. And it starts her on a day of adventures that is, well, it's just never going to, her life will never be the same. Not only is she going to get the savvy, but she's going to learn so much on this trip. And it's just, the book is just very fun to read, how people react. I think the characters are very relatable, even if you're not going to get some special gift, some superpower on your 13th birthday. I know I didn't. I think you're going to enjoy just reading about it. And there's 2 more books that the author Ingrid Law wrote. Scrumble about Mibs's cousin and Switch about her younger sister. They're not quite as good as Savvy, but Savvy sets the pace, and you might enjoy all of them. So that's something for you to try. The second book I wanted to suggest is called The Littles by John Peterson. And well, let me read the first page, and I'll give you a little feel for who the Littles are. William T. Little and his family were tiny people. They lived in a house owned by George W. Big. Mr. Big and his family didn't know the Littles were living with them. The Littles kept out of sight. They lived in tiny rooms in the walls of the house. The Littles looked almost like people you see every day, but they were very much smaller. Mr. Little was only 6 inches tall, and he was big for a little. The other Littles were even smaller. And here's a nice picture of them. I like the fact that they look just like people, except they have this tail. And of course, they are very small. And in this story is the first one. They live with the Biggs, like we said, and one day Mr. Biggs leaves and the Newcombs move in. And they're very messy people. They leave their food all around the house. And when you do that, mice come. Well, you can see mice might be a problem for the littles. And so the littles have to battle the mice. And so the Newcombs have another solution on how to get rid of mice. And that's what this particular book is about. There are 17 books in the series. They're all very fun. This one, like I said, is the first one, and I enjoyed it very much because I enjoyed reading about how they took everyday things that we find in our house and they use them, things that are small in our house are huge to them. Like here's the teacup. So that's huge. And what are they going to do with that? How they find things that are to just incorporate into their everyday life, and they see everything a lot differently than we do. So I thought that would be a fun book for you guys to read. And then, well, the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I loved this series. It is, I didn't read it as a child. Not that I was neglected. I just didn't realize that it was out there. I missed the whole series. But when my daughter was little, I read it to her and discovered it and just said, this is the best thing I've read. It takes place during World War II. And in London, or the Germans during World War II, they flew over and they would bomb London. They called it the Blitz. And they did it almost every night. They did it. Then they would stop for a while. It went on for about a year. And the bombs would come down and, people would have to run into their shelters and hide. And you never knew where it was going to hit. You never knew who was going to get hurt. You never knew any of those things. It was a very, very stressful time. And so the parents of London decided that they would send their children into the country because the Germans were just bombing the London area. They would get their fuel in France and then they would fly over the channel and then they could reach London to bomb it, but they did not have a lot of fuel, so they couldn't go into the countryside, so people thought their children would be safe. And so they sent them to live with families. And, so people from the city of Rochester would come and live with us here or further out, and people would take them in. And the 4 children, Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy, are sent to live with an old professor in a very, very large house. And Lucy, the youngest, they're playing hide and seek one day, and Lucy, the youngest, goes into a wardrobe, and she's hiding, and she pushes the coats aside, and she steps into a magical snow-covered land, and that land is called Narnia. And it's just full of amazing creatures. I had to write them all down. There's fauns and dwarves, satyrs, centaurs, minotaurs, unicorns, nymphs, giants, dryads, and talking animals. And they're all there living together. But it isn't a very good time for Narnia when the children discover it. There's been 100 years of winter, and there's a battle brewing between good and evil. There's the White Witch, who calls herself the Queen of Narnia. And then there is Aslan, the large lion who is the true king of Narnia. And there's an ancient prophecy that foretold that 2 sons of Adam, which would be male humans, and 2 daughters of Eve, which are female humans, will defeat the White Witch and restore peace to Narnia. And who do you think those 4 humans are? Now there's 7 books in the series. It's all the stories of Narnia told through the eyes of children. This is technically the 2nd book in the series. Most people read it first because it is the most popular. And there's The Magician's Nephew, about the creation of Narnia. There's Prince Caspian, which takes place 1 year has passed in England. So the children are still small in children, but 1,300 years have passed in Narnia. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, The Horse and His Boy, The Silver Chair, and The Last Battle. Will this be the end of Narnia? They're all written by C.S. Lewis, and they're just fabulous. They will take you into a world, an adventure. They're just wonderful books. And I hope you all have a chance to start reading them. They're fun to read with a family. And so there you go. Those are my suggestions for this month. You have a good time. Bye-bye.